The first thing you learn about Kepler 442b is that it weighs on you. Not just the gravity, though. At 1.3 Earth standard, it makes every step feel like you're carrying invisible stones in your boots. It's something else. Something that settles into your bones like cold mist and whispers that you don't belong here. I'd been planetside for 3 months. When I found her dot, the mining colony of New Thessaly was supposed to be temporary. A quick extraction job. Rare earth minerals to fuel the expanding human presence in the Tau Ceti system. The kind of work that paid well enough to retire on if you survived the contract. Corporate called it hazard pay for frontier development. We called it blood money for the desperate. The Kepler system had been surveyed, catalogued, and deemed uninhabited. The xenobiology reports listed only primitive microorganisms and some rudimentary plant analogs. Nothing that would complicate mining operations or require extensive terraforming protocols. Just another rock to strip bare and abandon. They were wrong about it. Being uninhabited, I was running the night shift on the eastern perimeter when the proximity alarm started screaming. Red lights bathed the prefab security station in hellish color as I pulled up the sensor feeds. Something large was moving through the crystalline forests that bordered our operation, something that didn't match any known geological or atmospheric phenomena. Control. This is Perimeter 7. I've got movement in Sector 12 Alpha, requesting backup. Static crackled through the comm for a long moment before Rodriguez's voice came through, thick with sleep and irritation. Jensen, it's 3 in there. Morning. You sure it's not just thermal vents again? I watched the thermal bloom pulse across my screen, in patterns too regular to be natural. Negative. This is deliberate movement. Large mammalian, possibly hostile. Understood. Sending a drone for recon. Stay put. The drone feed showed nothing but empty forest. Its infrared sensors picking up only the gentle heat radiating from the silicon-based trees. But I knew what I'd seen. Something was out there. Something that had learned to hide from our technology. That's when she stepped into the clearing. She was beautiful in the way that dangerous things often are sleek and predatory, with 6 legs that moved in perfect synchronization and a coat that seemed to absorb the pale light of Kepler's twin suns. Her head was elongated, almost wolf-like, but with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern that gave her an unnaturally wide field of vision. When she looked directly at the camera, I felt something I hadn't experienced since childhood. The absolute certainty that I was prey. Jesus Christ. Rodriguez breathed over the comm. What the hell is that thing? She stood there for perhaps 30 seconds, head tilted, as if listening to something beyond human hearing. Then she turned and melted back into the forest with liquid grace, leaving only the faintest disturbance in the crystalline underbrush. Unknown contact has withdrawn, I reported, but my hands were shaking as I made the log entry. The corporate briefings had prepared us for equipment failures, atmospheric hazards, and the psychological effects of prolonged isolation. They hadn't prepared us for the realization that we were sharing this world with something that had been watching us all along. The attack started 3 days later. That it wasn't the creature I'd seen. I was certain of that. These were smaller, more aggressive pack hunters that moved through the mining tunnels like shadows. They'd learned to avoid our motion sensors by timing their movements to the rhythmic vibrations of the extraction. Equipment. Clever, adaptive, deadly. We lost 6 miners in the first week. Clean kills, surgical precision, no feeding, no territorial marking, just death delivered with clinical efficiency. It's like they're studying us, Dr. Chon observed during the emergency briefing. Our xenobiologist had been examining the attack patterns, trying to understand what we were facing. The kills are too precise, too targeted. They're learning our weaknesses. Captain Morrison slammed his fist on the conference table. I don't care if they're the next evolutionary step. We've got quotas to meet and a schedule to keep. Double the guard rotations, install motion trackers in every tunnel, and if anything moves that isn't human, kill it. I wanted to object, to suggest that maybe we should try to understand what we were dealing with before we started a war. But I was just security, and security personnel didn't question orders. We followed them, no matter how wrong they felt. Escalation was predictable. More weapons, more patrols, more bodies. Both sides adapting, evolving, learning. The small pack hunters became more elusive, striking from angles we hadn't anticipated. We became more paranoid, more trigger-happy, more willing to shoot first and ask questions later. It was during one of these patrols that I encountered her again. I was alone against protocol, but we were short-staffed and the northern perimeter needed checking. The crystalline forest was different at night. The bioluminescent compounds in the tree analogs creating patterns of light that seemed almost like neural networks, beautiful and alien, pulsing with a rhythm that matched no earthly heartbeat. She stepped out of the shadows like a materialization of smoke in starlight, not up close. She was even more magnificent. Her coat wasn't black as I'd thought, but a deep blue-gray that shifted color as she moved, like oil on water. Her 4 eyes were intelligent, almost human in their expressiveness, and when she looked at me, I saw no malice, only curiosity. We stared at each other for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. She made no aggressive moves, showed no fear, just waited, as if she was trying to understand what manner of creature I was, just as I was trying to understand her. Slowly, carefully, I reached for my sidearm, not to threaten, but to show I was armed, to establish boundaries. She watched the movement with interest, head tilting in what I would later recognize as her thinking pose. Then she did something that changed everything. She sat. The gesture was so familiar, so dog-like, that I almost laughed. Here was this alien predator, this creature that, by all rights, should have been trying to tear my throat out, and she was sitting like a patient pet, waiting for a command. Jesus, I whispered, and she pricked her ears at the sound of my voice. I holstered my weapon. The moment stretched between us, fragile as spun glass. 2 completely different species, shaped by different worlds and different evolutionary pressures, finding common ground in the language of gesture and intent. She was beautiful and dangerous and intelligent, and I was just a human with a gun and a job to do. But in that moment, I made a choice that would define everything that followed. I extended my hand. She sniffed it carefully, her breath warm against my palm. Then, with infinite gentleness, she pressed her muzzle against my fingers. The contact sent a jolt of recognition through me, not telepathic, not supernatural, just the simple acknowledgement of one conscious being greeting another. When she pulled back, I saw something in her eyes that I recognized because I felt it too. Loneliness. We were both strangers on this world, both isolated from our own kind, both trying to find our place in a universe that seemed determined to make us enemies. I'm Marcus, I said, feeling foolish, but needing to establish something, anything that might bridge the gap between us. She made a sound then, soft and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Not language as I understood it, but communication nonetheless. An introduction, perhaps, a name. I decided to call her Symphony. The next 3 weeks were the strangest of my life. During the day, I maintained my duties with the mining operation. I filed reports, ran patrols, and attended briefings where Captain Morrison outlined increasingly aggressive strategies for dealing with the indigenous threat. I nodded and agreed, and kept my mouth shut about the alien creature. I was meeting in secret every night, because that's what it had become, a secret. Symphony would appear at the edge of the crystalline forest just after midnight, when the twin suns had set, and the only light came from the bioluminescent trees. We would spend hours together, not talking. She couldn't speak, and I didn't know if she understood English, but communicating in ways that transcended language. She was incredibly intelligent. That became clear within the first few encounters. She learned to recognize my schedule, to avoid the patrol routes I'd be taking, to stay hidden when other security personnel were in the area. She understood the concept of danger, of secrecy, of the need to keep our meetings hidden from both our species. I brought her things, food from the mess hall, which she politely declined, and small objects that seemed to fascinate her. A flashlight, which she would watch for hours as I clicked it on and off. A metal wrench, which she would nose and examine with scientific precision. A photograph of my sister back on Earth, which she studied with those 4 intelligent eyes as if trying to understand what it meant to me. In return, she showed me things. Patterns in the bioluminescent displays that I'd never noticed. Hidden pathways through the forest that avoided the mining equipment. Places where the alien ecosystem revealed its true complexity. She was teaching me to see her world not as a resource to be exploited, but as a living system worth understanding. The pack hunters stopped attacking. It was subtle at first, fewer sightings, longer intervals between incidents. The miners began to relax, to joke about the space wolves that had been terrorizing them. Captain Morrison took credit for the improved security measures, but I knew better. Symphony was protecting us, somehow communicating with the other predators, establishing some kind of acute TENTE. The realization should have made me happy. Instead, it filled me with dread because I was falling in love with her. Not romantically, I'm not that kind of fool, but the deep, abiding love that forms between species that have learned to trust each other completely. The kind of bond that humans had spent thousands of years developing with dogs, cats, horses, and countless other creatures. A recognition that despite our differences, we were fundamentally compatible in ways that transcended biology. She was my friend, my companion, my partner in this strange, secret world we'd created together, and I was betraying her every day. I stayed silent. The corporate surveys had been wrong. This world wasn't uninhabited. It was home to a species that was intelligent, social, and peaceful. The pack hunters weren't mindless predators. They were Symphony's people, defending their territory from invaders who had arrived without warning or invitation. We were the monsters in this story. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that I was just one security guard, that I couldn't change corporate policy or halt a mining operation worth billions of credits. That Symphony was just an animal, however intelligent, and my duty was to my own species. But every night, when she greeted me with that soft musical sound and pressed her muzzle against my hand, I felt the weight of my complicity. She trusted me. She'd stopped her people from attacking because she believed I was different, that I could be the bridge between our species. She was right, and that terrified me. The crisis came on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after my first real encounter. With Symphony. Dr. Chan burst into the security station, her face flushed with excitement and fear. Marcus, you need to see this. The specimens we've been collecting, they're not just random animals. They're organized, intelligent. They've been trying to communicate with us. She showed me recordings from the mining tunnels, audio analysis of the sounds the pack hunters made during their attacks. Patterns within patterns, mathematical relationships that suggested language, social structure, culture. They're not attacking randomly, she continued. They're hurting us, keeping us contained to specific areas. It's like they're trying to minimize contact while still protecting their territory. My blood ran cold. What are you saying? I'm saying we're not dealing with animals. We're dealing with a sapient species, and corporate needs to know immediately. Before I could respond, the communications array lit up with an incoming transmission. Corporate command. Real-time communication across 15 light years. Captain Norrison's voice echoed through the station as he took the call. Yes, sir. Mining operations are proceeding on schedule. Yes, we've had some issues with local wildlife, but nothing we can't handle. No, sir. No signs of intelligent life whatsoever. He was lying. And I knew why. The Kepler 442b extraction contract was worth more than the GDP of most Earth nations. If corporate discovered we were dealing with a sapient species, the entire operation would be shut down pending lengthy xenological surveys and first contact protocols. Millions of credits would be lost, careers would be ruined, and the mining rights would probably be revoked entirely. Morrison caught my eye through the security station's window and made a cutting gesture across his throat. The message was clear. What we knew stayed here. The official record would show that Kepler 442b was uninhabited. The pack hunters would be classified as non-sapient predators. Any evidence to the contrary would be suppressed. I thought about Symphony, about the trust in her eyes, and the gentle way she'd learned to communicate with me, about the pack hunters who had stopped their attacks not because they were defeated, but because they'd been asked to by someone they respected. We were about to commit genocide, and I was the only one who could stop it. That night, I made a decision that would haunt me for the rest of my life. I went to meet Symphony as usual, but this time, I brought more than just curiosity and companionship. I brought a choice. She was waiting for me at the edge of the crystalline forest, her coat shimmering in the bioluminescent light. When she saw me, she made that musical greeting sound and approached with her usual confidence. I knelt down and extended my hand, letting her press her muzzle against my palm. The contact was warm, familiar, comforting. Then I looked into her four intelligent eyes and tried to find the words to explain what was about to happen. "They're going to kill your people," I said, not sure if she could understand the words, but hoping she could read the emotion behind them. "My people? They're going to expand the mining operation, clear out the forest. They think you're just animals." She tilted her head, watching me with that focused intensity I'd come to recognize as her thinking expression. "You have to leave," I continued. "Take your pack and go deeper into the forest. Find somewhere safe. I'll try to delay them, try to buy you time, but you have to run." For a moment, I thought she understood. She backed away from me, her head turning toward the deeper forest as if considering my words. Then she did something that broke my heart. She came back. She pressed her full body against my side, her warmth seeping through my environmental suit. She was choosing to stay, choosing to trust me over her own survival instincts, choosing to believe that somehow, some way, I would find a solution that didn't require to abandon her home. That's when I knew what I had to do. The mining equipment was scheduled to begin clear-cutting Symphony's forest at dawn. I had perhaps 6 hours to change the course of history. I made my way back to the security station and accessed the communications array. Corporate command was offline, but I could record a message for later transmission. A full report detailing everything I'd discovered about the indigenous species, complete with video evidence and Dr. Chun's analysis. It would end my career, possibly land me in prison for violation of corporate security protocols. But it would also ensure that Symphony's people had legal protection under the Sapient Species Protection Act. I was halfway through recording when Captain Morrison walked in. "Jensen, working late? Just finishing up the patrol report, sir." He studied me for a long moment, then moved to the communications console. "That's funny, because according to the system logs, you've been accessing classified channels, recording unauthorized transmissions." My hand moved instinctively toward my sidearm, but Morrison was faster. His weapon was already drawn, pointed at my chest. "Can't let you do that, Marcus. Too much money at stake. Too many careers on the line." "They're intelligent," I said, not bothering to deny what I'd been doing. "They have language, culture, society. You can't just wipe them out. Watch me." He gestured toward the door. "You're going to delete that recording. Then you're going to forget everything you think you know about local wildlife. And if you're very lucky, you'll live to finish your contract." We walked through the pre-dawn darkness toward the communications array, Morrison's weapon never wavering. I had perhaps 10 minutes before the clear-cutting would begin. 10 minutes to find a way to save Symphony's people. That's when I heard a soft musical sound from the shadows beyond the equipment yard. Symphony stepped into the light, her coat shimmering with bioluminescent patterns I'd never seen before. She wasn't alone. Behind her, emerging from the crystalline forest, like ghosts made manifest, came the pack hunters. Dozens of them, moving with silent coordination. Morrison swore and swung his weapon toward them, but I was already moving. 20 years of security, training condensed into a single moment of perfect clarity. I hit him low and hard, sending us both tumbling to the ground. His weapon discharged into the air, the sound echoing off the prefab buildings. The pack hunters could have killed us both. In that moment, they were faster, stronger, better adapted to this world. Instead, they waited, watching, trusting Symphony's judgment about whether I was friend or foe. Morrison rolled to his feet, reaching for his backup weapon. He never made it. Symphony moved like liquid shadow, covering the distance between them. In a heartbeat, she didn't kill him. That would have been easy. Instead, she pinned him to the ground with her massive paws, her four eyes fixed on his face with predatory intensity. "Don't," I said, though I wasn't sure if I was talking to her or to Morrison. "Don't make this worse than it has to be." She looked at me, and I saw the question in her eyes. Trust or survival, mercy or justice. The choice between what was right and what was safe. I made it for both of us. I walked to the communications array and completed my recording. Full disclosure, everything I'd learned about the indigenous species, their intelligence, their right to exist. I transmitted it with priority flags to Corporate Command, the Colonial Administration, and the Sapient Species Protection Committee. When I turned back, Symphony had released Morrison. He was unconscious, but breathing, his weapons scattered beyond reach. The pack hunters were already melting back into the forest, their part in this strange drama complete. Only Symphony remained. She approached me slowly, her musical greeting softer now, almost sad. She pressed her muzzle against my hand one last time, and I felt the weight of everything we'd shared. The trust, the friendship, the impossible connection between two species that should have been enemies. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm sorry it took me so long to do the right thing." She made a sound I'd never heard before, complex, layered, almost like a song. Then she turned and walked toward the crystalline forest, her people's home that would now be protected by laws written on worlds she'd never seen. She paused at the edge of the light and looked back at me. In her 4 eyes, I saw something that might have been forgiveness, or perhaps just acceptance. The recognition that we'd both done what we had to do, that we'd both chosen loyalty over safety, trust over survival. Then she was gone, vanished into the bioluminescent depths of her world. That was 15 years ago. The mining operation was suspended pending investigation, then permanently shut down after the Sapient Species Protection Committee classified Symphony's people as a protected species. New Thessaly was redesignated as a cultural preserve, and I was reassigned to a desk job on Luna Station. I never saw Symphony again, but I still think about her every day, about the trust she showed me, the faith she had that I would do the right thing even when it cost me everything, about the gentle way she'd learned to communicate with me, and the patience she'd shown while I learned to understand her world. They say that humans are unique in our ability to form bonds across species lines, that our capacity for empathy, for seeing consciousness in forms radically different from our own, is what sets us apart in the galaxy. I don't know if that's true, but I know that on a distant world orbiting twin suns, a creature made of starlight and shadow taught me that connection transcends biology. That trust can bridge any gap, and that sometimes the right choice is the hardest one to make. The weight of starlight isn't just gravity, it's responsibility. It's the knowledge that in a universe full of wonders, we have the power to choose between destruction and understanding, between fear and love. Symphony chose love, and because of her, so did I. In the end, that's what makes us human, not our technology, not our ambition, not our ability to conquer and exploit. It's our capacity to recognize the sacred in the alien, to find family in the foreign, to choose connection over conquest. It's our ability to love what we don't understand, and to protect what we'll never possess. The stars are still out there, waiting, and somewhere among them, in a crystalline forest on a world that weighs on your soul, a creature who taught me the meaning of friendship still sings in the bioluminescent dark. Hope she remembers me as kindly as I remember her.